Greetings and welcome to the energy of Gemini. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Tarot of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the Order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. We shall begin with a primer reading before we get into the Great Mirror of the energy of Gemini for the month of July 2022 on the 1st of July. Now, from what I see, there's a very strong entry into the month of July as a time and space with uh, a strong mix of Mercury and Venus energy in Gemini placed in your 12th and first houses in the ascendant, essentially. And this indicates a number of things. Lessons to be had with a shifting and dynamic world, lessons to be had when it comes to observing religious rituals or practices, um, observing also the voice that comes within, that is pioneering in nature, that is placed in Saturn in retrograde in the ninth and 10th houses. Okay. Um, and what I'm seeing here is an addressing of collective karma, you being the agent and bringing the mind as well as the value system when it comes to deep spiritual shifts as you representing the gateway, meaning that you are the gatekeeper, you hold the keys to something that wants to develop in terms of the philosophical age of Aquarius. Okay. And that is a very auspicious combination. There also is something here about you learning from teachers, two teachers, one of Jupiter in Aries, one of Saturn in retrograde in Aquarius, meaning that there's someone who comes from the future that is trying to bring forward a very intense dogma from the future in order to produce something in terms of collective actions, Mars and Aries in the 11th house, and also producing for you some sort of emotional catharsis that has to do with deep transformation about the transformation of dreams, the transformation of dreams through action, through producing pioneering efforts or works. Okay. With Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn, this makes it difficult when it comes to the trauma that is found in the voice that comes within when it comes to trying to voice out your opinions about your reality, okay, your resources. And there's something about you that identifies in a very independent way about making resources work for you in a spiritual way that you are learning from one of the great teachers, Jupiter in Aries, okay. Ultimately, I do see a lot in terms of defining the sense of self by expressing your mind, by expressing your value system when it comes from a very deep place. If it does, then there's something about the divine feminine shining itself through to the first house. Okay, the sun and the conjunct in Cancer in the first house. And that produces an effect here. Something about what you're learning through gurus or teachers out there, you may actually challenge them, even if they are coming from the future. Their voice is still somewhat outdated. So there's a possibility that what is developing inside of you, your sense of self, is a very deep and spiritual occult knowledge um, about this shift, this general shift. And it's somewhat all over the place, but that's what's to be expected from the energy of Gemini and reading for Gemini in general. There are often two minds um, and two suns. So let's get into it. We'll be doing a small reading for the energy, for the karmic energies, the month of July 2022 for Gemini. Okay. Okay, if you feel that you've had to withdraw from a certain path or a certain so-called dharma, a truthful path, it's for the right reasons. Um, there's a cold and exacting nature in the triplicity of air that moves from the third house to the seventh house to the 11th house. And as you move through this progression, you activate what primarily? Let's see. You activate an intellectual capacity, a wisdom, okay, a sage wisdom that is very cold in design, okay, very cold and intellectual in design, meaning that you can treat uh, your current truth, to look back onto your past self and to cut out false truths in some sort of way. But this cutting out, it just provides a nullification of the binary of one truth versus another, okay? And the only truth that emerges after that is the fact that any thought that has been produced, that has been intellectualized, has run its own cycle out. Okay, this empowers you. This is like bearing the sword or bearing the hatchet. This allows you to be a student or disciple or a learner of new ideologies or new fields uh, of fruition on the horizon. And I like this reading so far. The difference here is that the Page of Pentacles pulls from the path, a path of varying degrees of variant steps. Okay, takes one of those steps, and then observes it. This is like taking a footprint and observing it in the sand. Um, and what this allows you to do is to become cognizant of the stability of your own reality. Okay, so this is a very heady reading, but it it sort of requires losing the head or losing the mind, losing the sort of trappings and the cycles of the mind in order to become still, to become grounded. And I really like this reading so far. Let's move on. Now, it could be that you're dealing with someone who, much like you, is an observer of the step of the fossil residue or um, of the imprint, okay? And we'll see what happens with that. Let's see your 7,000 Sagittarius. Jupiter and Sagittarius. Okay, let's see here. Okay, there's a very deep spiritual reservoir when it comes to this portrayal of Gemini's energy, okay? What we have here is the Nine of Pentacles in the reverse. Um, it speaks about the rejection of the artificial world when it comes to pleasure, okay? So when it comes to this connection, you are being perceived as someone who maybe a bit prudish or not searching for pleasure, not grounded in some sort of way. It's because there's an activation of the dragon's head with uh, 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 the North Node, with Uranus and Fortune, Pars Fortune, in your 12th house in the energy of Taurus. Okay, that means that there's something abstract that you're holding on to. It means that there's something that you are being informed by the auspices of the Moon and Mercury to embrace the dragon's head and to go with it when it comes to especially good health. You're doing something, you're embracing the abstract, the spiritual realm of the triplicity, rather not the triplicity, but the triangulation of North Node, Uranus, and Pars Fortune in your 12th house, in the dragon's head, in Taurus, okay? Um, so that allows for abstraction, an abstract way to perceive the forthcoming realities of the world. Um, Now, you're dealing with someone here that is primarily rejected or is fearing rejection. There's something about them also trying to find a sense of clarity when it comes to judgment, okay, when it comes to right doing and being called to do something. We have here also the Ace of Pentacles in the reverse on the conscious level. There's something about this that speaks to me volumes about the Eight of Pentacles in the reverse. Okay, which is the 9 versus the 1. Actually, no, it wouldn't be the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. It would be the 10 of Pentacles in reverse, because you would add those together. And what that produces is a false sense of commitment. That's what I'm seeing here. A false sense of commitment. Someone's being judged for a false sense of commitment. And in this respect, this speaks about the oscillation of ideals, not being able to place the ideals in the right basket. Also, it speaks of the horses of the chariot running in two opposite directions, making a great deal of stagnation for the actual cart of the chariot. Difficulty in terms of producing uh, the right passions for the right cause. Okay, difficulty and also for also especially you to choose. I mean, there's a plain and simple thing of choosing in this, but then you're not choosing. You don't want to. There's a need to understand clarity as opposed to be sort of dumbfounded by Neptune in retrograde in Pisces in your 10th house, meaning that the karmic accounts that you're dealing with when it comes to the projection, the projective and abstract realm of Neptune in retrograde in Pisces, is very difficult for you to clarify certain things. Things need to transform, but with Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn, it's very difficult. There also is something about uh, it would be Mercury in your first house in the energy of obviously Gemini. That has to do with the splitting of worlds, okay, the splitting of ideas, being enslaved to binary ways of thinking, to morality even. And it's important for you really not to make that choice because the choice is being made for you already. There's an element of departure and an element that you will take your efforts of romance or your efforts of freedom somewhere else because it has to do with the exploration of the ideal and the abstract. There's a creative aspect about you that may be dark in nature that pertains to your 11th house, your dreams, your ambitions, and trying to understand something that is being programmed in terms of your own values, okay, which may be that of the student, may be that of someone who is searching or seeking out truth, okay. Um, and I rather like that part of the reading. There also is something here about boredom on one end or a spiritual path that this person needs to tend to. The energy of Taurus in Uranus is very befuddling for them. It has been for many years, or at least a year. Um, and there's something about them that is also operating uh, in such a way that they do not want to be enslaved by desire or by the intense sort of chemical obsession that occurs in this type of situation. At the same time, with the retrograde energy of Neptune in in Pisces, this might change. There's something about them that might change, but it's very much fixed here when it comes to the energy of inaction. Okay, on their behalf, inaction, constantly being forced to judge and to find judgment, to find a clarity of mind. This is not the easiest of situations because we have here the King of Cups in reverse. We also have the Ten of Rods in reverse. Okay, the ultimate sort of outcomes here are tied to a commitment that cannot be held to, that cannot be held accountable to, because of a lack of love or the end of passions. Okay. At the same time, this is something of a burden. It feels like a burden, and then letting it go, and then letting the horses do what they will when it comes to the chariot's energy. The thing is that without the charioteer being there, without the energy of Cancer being there, and all the solar energy of Cancer being here now in the month of July, it's very difficult to express with conjunction to Lilith some of the deeper passions that may exist here that are still warm in nature, but then they're not designed to keep burning so intensely for both of you. That's what I'm seeing. Doesn't have to resonate for you, but if it does, there is advice here about being patient with this connection because, as you can see here, the chariot shows up, being patient and waiting for Jupiter, Saturn to make itself known in some sort of way when it comes to making itself known in a humanitarian way, especially so that the agency of the charioteer can come in and provide a sense of clarity. There also is a sense of an ending here. in this. That is the best I can do. It's very intense reading, very somewhat dark, but at the same time very light. It's something that it's like you're releasing the burden. This is the type of connection that the cards are saying they are. All right, bye bye.